So anytime you build an Android application, you're going to have some sort of a user interface for your users to interact with. Well, in this little demo, in this hands-on exercise, we're going to be building an Android application that has a button as well as a little text box somebody can type into and another text box that shows some results. And so these UI components you create, some of them can be, they can display static text. So this would be just like a text box that displays information like a label. Some of them can display dynamic content. So maybe some data that's changeable that you can type into. Well, the text view is what we use if we want to not have non-editable text, so just a label that you're displaying. Whereas there's a component called an edit text that we use if you want to have something that somebody can type into and modify. So text view is static, edit text is dynamic, at least based on how we define those terms just there. There's another component called a button, which, as the name implies, we use that to trigger some sort of action, some sort of event handling code based upon that button being pressed. Well, if we want to add these into our application, the best way to do this is to take the layout XML file, and add additional entries to it. The one that was there already had a simple text view inside of a relative layout. So we're going to add some additional stuff in there. And there's some minimal attributes that we need to add for each component. And we're listing 3 of them here. Everything that we add into our layout should define its own ID. So there's an Android :ID attribute that will be specifying on each of our components, whether it be a button, whether it be a text view, or maybe it's an edit text, or other things as we'll see later. We have to give it an ID. That way later on, maybe in code, we can reference that component based on the ID. Another thing we should do is we should specify the width and the height of each component, how big it should be. We're actually using something called a relative layout for our first example here. And the way relative layouts work is you can specify widths and heights and say, make those similar to, or make them work with the parent. And so there's a couple options here. We can say match parent. If we say, let's say for the width, we say match parent, that says make this component as wide as the parent component is. However, if we say wrap content, that says only make this component as, in this case we have a height, so height equals wrap content, only make it as tall as it needs to be, as the text for that component perhaps. So wrap content, squeeze out any extra space, only make it as big as it needs to be. Match parent, make it as big as the parent is. And there's going to be lots of other things that we can do here in these layouts to adjust the look and the feel of your applications, but this is some basic stuff that we can put in here. In this case, we are going to be using a relative layout, and so yeah, we got the width and height, but maybe more interesting for a relative layout, we can specify, all right, how does this component work in conjunction with this parent? How does it display itself? In this case, we say, go ahead and align it to the top of the parent and to the left of the parent. And for the next component, we're saying lay it out below the one called name. So the edit text says it's called name. Now this say hello button is going to be below name. And the text view is going to be beneath the hello button, or something along those lines. And actually, I think I see, am I wrong here? I think I see a little typo in the book. Oh no, I did not see a typo. I apologize. I just looked at it wrong. Layout below, there it is going to be below ID say hello, and up above we have the button is called ID say hello. I just highlighted the wrong box. I apologize. So anyhow, these are the basics, and there's going to be more details to come on all this stuff as you go deeper into Android, but we're just kind of getting started here. And there's other stuff. So those are like the 3 minimum attributes that you tend to put on all the layout components you define. Well, there's other stuff that maybe could be more specific to a particular kind of component. For example, on an edit text, we can identify a hint. We add the Android:hint attribute to specify some text to be inside that box that's prompting the user, helping them understand what they're supposed to type in. You can also use Android:text. That's another one. Do we have one of those? Oh, here's one on the button. Android:text. That says what text should we display on any particular component. For both the hint and the text, for either one of them, we can either use just hard-coded strings like we've done here, string literals, or maybe better, we can use a value that's stored out in strings XML. And so that was something that we had, I think, in the previous example, the previous incarnation of this example had reached out over to the strings XML for its text. We'll get into that more at a later time. So anyhow, that gives you a basic sense, hopefully, of how you might work with an Android layout. This is one of those things that we really do want you to get your hands on the keyboard and try out. And so just like before, what I'd like to have you do is on your system, do this hands-on activity that we're requesting. What we want you to do is make a change to the layout file, activity hello Android XML, adding in the stuff that's in bold here. So making changes so it looks like what's here. I'm going to do that real quick. I'll pause the video and then I'll restart the video just to show you the results of the changes. But of course, we definitely want you to do this on your systems as well. But I'll pause for just a bit and make that happen. Okay, back with you again. I did type in the bold text that was on page or on that document here. And again, that'll be something that should be available to you as a handout that you can have. That way you don't have to squint and stare at the video to capture this. But I went ahead and grabbed that. I've got that all typed in here. And a couple quick things. One is that Eclipse is complaining. One of the cool things about Eclipse with the ADT plugin is that it has this extra set of checks that it does. It's trying to make sure I'm doing a good job. And it's arguing with me. It's telling me that I'm using hard-coded strings for please enter your name and for say hello. And it says that's not the proper way of doing this. We should be using those XML resources. And it's right. But we're just getting started, so I'm trying to keep things simple here. The other thing I want to show you is that we can click over to the graphical layout tab and we can see the results of what we just did. Now we can see that there's a text view. Actually, it's an edit text that has a hint, please enter your name. It's at the left and top of the parent, and it's as wide as the parent, but only as tall as it needs to be. We have a button here, the Say Hello button. Its width and height are both wrapping the content of its text, so it's not as wide as the screen, just as wide as it needs to be, and just as high as it needs to be, and it's below the edit text. And there's one other component that may not be as obvious now because I don't have any text in it, and that is the text view. Maybe I'll put in a quick little bit of text so we can see it. Oops. So, I clicked on the wrong thing. I should be clicking on the bottom, activity hello Android XML. Let me just quickly so we can see it. Android:text equals, and I'll just say here. And now if I go back to graphical layout, you can see it is there. It is below the button. Well, I don't actually want that text there. What we'll do is we're going to have some code in a bit that has you enter your name, type your name in, you click the button, and whatever you have as your name will say hello and then your name. So that text view will be dynamically populated. Anyhow, oops, I did it again. I'm going to click on the XML tab at the bottom. I want to take out that extra text. That doesn't need to be there. So please, on your systems, go ahead and enter in this same information. Make sure that it looks like mine just looked. And then once you're done, move on to the next video.